Alright, ladies and gentlemen, gonna walk through a couple of mini skid steers. This is my machine right here. It's a Boxer 427. It's got a 27 horsepower Kohler engine in it. It's a gas engine. This is the bucket I use. It's got my Piranha tooth bar, which is awesome. Never have to take that off. I can scrape the ground, pick up rocks or dirt off concrete. It never hurts the ground, and it digs like crazy. It's really nice. So this Boxer here is a 2007. As far as operating capacity, it's about 600 pounds. It can pick up about 1,000 pounds off the ground and move it, but not going to pick up much more than 600 to full height. It's got the 4-prong control here. These are going to run the tracks. This is going to lift up the arm, and this is going to tilt the bucket. It's a pretty nice little machine, but I'm starting to get into a little bit bigger stuff, so I'm wanting to get something a little bit bigger. As you can see, it's a bit smaller compared to these other two guys. If we can go around this way, you can see size difference between the three machines. I'm going to start real quick with the ditch witch. This is the SK800. It does not have a weight kit on it. It's the old 752 that they just rebadged. I think they did a little bit of hydraulic work to it, but I was putting it through its paces today. I took it over and did some dirt work, was running into a pile of dirt, also did some tilling with these machines. These two machines on the outside, I got this Vermeer S925TX, and then obviously the ditch witch I just talked about. Overall, I like both machines a lot. I'm going to go through a couple of the features between them. If I had to buy one today, honestly, well, I'll tell you final verdict at the end. Okay, keep you waiting on that. So, a couple of nice things I like about this. First of all, big platform to stand on. Access to everything's really easy. You can pop the hood here. Let me do that real quick so you can just see inside here. Not sure why this hydraulic pump is not painted, but it's very rusty. But as you can see, access to a bunch of stuff. They've got a remote oil filter here. This is your fuel filter. There's another fuel filter up front. Hydraulic fluid filter. Access to the battery. It's got an on-off switch for the battery here. Really easy to get to everything. It's got open sides, so if you lift up the arms, you can access everything pretty easily. Around the back, we've got access here. Lift that up so you can get into the fuel. This is a hydraulic tank. This is another fuel filter. So pretty easy access to everything. As far as the controls go, between the ditch witch and the Vermeer, I like them both. I will say I like the bars on the Vermeer better than the ditch witch bars. The bars on the Vermeer just kind of cup your hand. I'll show you those here in a second. But the joystick is great. I really like this. It doesn't have a detent forward or back, but if you pull it back, there's a foot detent down here. So you let that up, and that lets the attachment to stop. It's got really nice, easy up and down with the bucket. It's got a float function, which is nice. This is the 25 horsepower Kubota diesel. Seems like it's got plenty of power. Didn't have any problems with it today. As far as the Vermeer goes, this is a 925. This is a brand new machine. They just came out with it. It's got these weight kits on the back. Going around the machine, let's go around this way. It's basically the same size as the ditch witch. They both have right around the same hinge pin height. I'll show you that here in a second. It's 83 inches. A couple of subtle differences between the two. This has kind of a closed track design with the rollers underneath, and it is tensioned by a bolt with a spring. The ditch witch is tensioned by grease. This one has a 7-inch tracks. The one I would order would have the 9-inch tracks, but I didn't really see any big problems besides a lot of ground pressure whenever I was going through the grass. This has 2 diesel tanks on either side, like a 14 or 15 gallon capacity. I think the capacity on this one over here is about 10 gallons, so a little bit more fuel capacity on the Vermeer. Access to the engine and everything on this is super easy. It's all just right inside here, and then these panels, I won't take them out, but these just lift out, and they're really easy to access everything on the sides there. The Vermeer has dual hydraulics. It's got a high flow on this side, and this is a low flow over here. A couple of things that I liked about the Vermeer a little bit more than the Ditch Witch. Like I was saying a second ago, I like the control bar here. It really gives you a really good feel for the controls when you're getting a hold of these things. This does have a detent forward and a detent backward, and it also, this is for the low flow over here. And for my backhoe attachment, this is a really nice spot because I can manipulate the bucket up and down, and then run the hydraulic ram on the backhoe attachment, which is really, really nice. I ran a tiller on both of these machines, the Ditch Witch and the Vermeer, and didn't see much of a difference as far as hydraulic flow. This is rated for 15 gallons per minute. That's rated for about 13. But I wasn't really, I couldn't really tell a big difference between the two. I suppose if you're running a trencher or something like that, maybe you could tell the difference, but I really couldn't pick up on anything. Let me start the machine and kind of show you hinge pin height and things like that. Let's get this one up real quick. Okay, hopefully this bucket doesn't fall out, and this is a problem I've been having today. How this attaches, these pins are supposed to come through, and for whatever reason, this quick attach, it doesn't want to push through, and I had to fart with that quite a bit today. As far as dump height, maybe it's just because it's over a little bit. Let me see. Yeah, well, I don't think it'll fall. But as far as dump height, I could really tell a difference as far as dump angle. The Vermeer had a better dump angle than the Ditch Witch did. I was running this bucket all day today with both machines, so the bucket didn't make a difference. But as far as dump angle, you could actually tilt this bucket down and get all the material out. On this one, you had to wiggle it a little bit to get all the material out, which isn't the end of the world, but it's something to think about. So a couple of differences between the machines. No grease points. Okay, no grease points on any of these parts that you would have to grease. I guess they use some kind of grommet in there. That's like a urethane grommet. So you don't have to grease any of that. That's good and bad. I mean, I guess after about 300 hours, you're supposed to replace all of these, which doesn't sound fun in 300 hours. Who knows how that would go. On the Vermeer, it has grease points. So, as far as like routine maintenance stuff goes, greasing is not that big of a deal. So I kind of like the idea of actually having grease points and not having to switch out these bushings in 300 hours. Another thing that I thought the Ditch Witch had over the Vermeer was just ground speed and more responsive controls. I liked the handle on the Vermeer, but I didn't necessarily like how sometimes you would manipulate the tracks and it'd delay, and then it would just pull the track one way then the other. So It's not the end of the world. Like I said, I like both machines, but that's just something to think about. These tracks are tensioned by grease, like most large skid steers and excavators, which I like better than an actual, spring. On my Boxer, it's tensioned by a spring in here, so it's something you got to deal with there. Actual movement of the arms up and down, the Vermeer was slower up and down than the Ditch Witch was, but it wasn't super noticeable, but definitely a little bit noticeable. As far as other issues goes, I actually really like this platform better than the Ditch Witch's platform. When you're in this and you're able to hold on to yourself on the sides, you just feel more secure. You're actually you feel like you're in the machine, and it's not like you're gonna fall off. This one here, falling off isn't necessarily something that's gonna happen, but it's possible. But I will say one thing I really like about the Ditch Witch is the fact that, let me start it real quick. Oh, don't fall off, bucket. That could be loud. On the Ditch Witch, I can move the machine without actually having to stand on it. And I do this quite a bit whenever I'm doing landscape, because I'll put a pallet of bricks out front, pick them up, set them down, and then walk to the side of the machine, move it forward. With the Vermeer, you cannot move the machine unless you're standing on the back of the machine. So, as you can see, nothing there. I actually have to stand on the machine for it to move. Now, whenever I'm loading this onto a trailer, onto my dump trailer, I really like being able to walk up the ramps and just move the machine onto the trailer. With this one, I actually have to be standing on the machine while it's going up the ramps, while it's coming down the ramps. And luckily I do have these sides that make me, give me something to really connect myself to the machine with, but I don't like that. I like to be able to be off the machine and guide it off the trailer. So, talking about operations, like I said earlier, I was using it for picking up dirt. I did some tilling. I used pallet forks. I will say, as far as just lifting capacity, the Vermeer wins. I have a pallet out back that had about 1,300 pounds of bricks on it. Add my pallet forks to the front, and that's about 250 to 300 pounds. This machine right here picked up to dump trailer height, or to unload from a trailer, 1,600 pounds. Okay, I had 4 rows of Holland pavers, 48 bricks per row, and then there was 26 sitting on top. And I measured one paver, it said it was 6.2 pounds. Did the math on that, came up to about 1,300 pounds. And it picked that up to dump trailer height, so I could set it on a trailer and take it off a trailer. I also had some concrete blocks that I had to move that were round. I think they were like post bases. They were 2.5 foot diameter, 2 foot depth cylinders, and this machine picked them up and put them in the back of my dump trailer earlier today. They were probably 1,400 pounds each. This machine could get that pallet off the ground, but I couldn't move it. I couldn't take it forward, I couldn't take it back, and I definitely couldn't lift it to dump trailer height. So as far as lift capacity, this machine has more. Obviously, this is an 800, this is a 925. This has the weight kit on the back. I think if I put the weight kit on the back of this one, we would be in the same business, so that's nice. But just what I'm demoing today, this machine lifted a lot more. Now, for example, like this machine here, I could only do 1,000 pounds off the ground. And if I wanted to lift it to dump trailer height, it'd have to be closer to 800. So it's really nice to have basically double the lift capacity. Now, one thing that did happen while running the Vermeer was whenever I was running the machine through dirt and adding dirt to the bucket, basically just scraping dirt across the ground, it bogged down. And I ran it into a pile of dirt twice, and it died. Now, I learned I could go slowly into that pile, and it wouldn't die or really bog down much, but this machine never bogged down or died. And they both have the 25 horsepower Kubota diesel engine in them. So maybe the extra weight on the back is maybe a little bit too much for it whenever it comes to driving in a pile of dirt or something. But, you know, going slow into the pile, it picked it up no problem. So, you know, between the two machines, there's pros and cons for both of them. Whenever it comes to buying the machine, I'm honestly telling you, and this is no good, but I'm honestly telling you, whichever one's cheaper. I mean, they are both awesome. My Vermeer guy, I will tell you the list price for this one is $31,000. He said he's going to work with me on that. We'll see how it comes out. The list price for this one is $25,700 with a bucket. So obviously this is $5,000 cheaper. Now I'm not sure how much wiggle room is on either of these machines. So obviously a little bit more expensive machine. It's got a little bit more capability as far as lift capacity. So we'll see how we work out on price. I'll let you know later on how all that goes. But whatever machine's going to be cheaper, I'm going to buy that machine because they are both great. And like there's pros and cons for both. I can live with the cons for both machines. There was not one thing that steered me the other way. I was at GIE last week and I drove the Toro, what is it, TX 1000. I drove the Bobcat, the MT85. Both of those machines are nowhere close to these two machines. Vermeer and Ditch Witch have really stepped up their game. Really the biggest thing for me is comfort and lifting capacity, and you know, those two things, both of these machines were very comfortable. They both will lift what I need them to lift. The Bobcat that I ran at GIE was killing my wrist, and it seemed like it had a belt whine every time you wanted to move the machine. The Toro, I mean, it was a good machine, but it's just, I've seen so many bad things about them breaking so often. Kind of scares me away from the Toro, and from running dingoes from rental yards, it makes me just want to stay away from them. I just don't like the dingo. But these two machines, I mean, as far as fuel capacity, this one wins. As far as, you know, manipulation of the tracks, so small little movements and things like that, the Ditch Witch is going to win. Comfort, this one. You know, picking the bucket up and down quickly, this one wins. You know, it's just back and forth all day long. So whichever one you think you have the best dealer support with, whichever one you think is going to be the most reliable, whichever one you think is the cooler color. I personally like the Ditch Witch color better, but that's not that big of a deal to me. Both of these machines are awesome. So I hope this helped. And if you're looking for a machine, try these both out. They're awesome. Thank you.